I wasn't planning on making a video this morning, actually. I still need to do a better job of kind of catching up on some of the comments and stuff in some of my other videos and things like that. But I was listening to a video this morning on my way to work by Hit Machine 247. I don't know if that's 247 or 24/7, but he was talking about the Mark Thornton story again, of course, and the lessons we can learn from that. But he got into this whole thing about these guys that go over there and like, what's his motives? You know, what was his big motivation in going over there? Did he think, finding someone who's so much younger and comes from a poor background and everything, that she wouldn't question his motives? And that sort of deep thinking about finding some young woman who's uneducated and comes from a poor background so that he could victimize her or something. And that just implies that there's a lot more thinking and planning about this kind of stuff than what a lot of guys put into it. People don't go over there with some kind of evil, cynical plan. Oh, I'm going to find somebody who's too stupid to know what my motives are. Because I'm such an evil person that I'm going to use them or whatever. You end up in the Philippines. I remember even back in my younger days, you used to see these magazines like Where to Retire and stuff like that on the newsstand at Barnes & Noble, and talk about different places where your money goes really far. And obviously you'd see stuff like in the Philippines and Southeast Asia and Central America and places like that. And there's no evil plan people usually have when they go over there. I'm going to find some young uneducated woman who's 40 years younger than me or whatever to victimize. It just happens. They go over there. They've read all this stuff about, man, you can go over here in this place where there's palm trees and beautiful oceans and beaches and stuff, and everything's so much cheaper. And even if you just have Social Security coming in, you can live a good life instead of eking out a meager existence in America or somewhere. And you get over there and you find yourself, this is assuming that you haven't already met somebody online or whatever, and you end up over there, and as you go about your daily life trying to set things up, you're going to meet people, and you'll run into other expats, for instance, who are married to someone or have a girlfriend, and they'll say, well, I have a cousin or a sister or somebody or a friend who'd love to meet a nice American, and she sees how happy I am and all of this, and what a good life we have. And you end up meeting people, you get involved with somebody. If you've had like the last 10, 20, 30 years of your life just scraping by, not really having a lot of fun, a lot of great experiences and adventures, and you find yourself in an exotic foreign country with some beautiful brown woman with long, dark, silky hair down her back, scrubbing you up in the shower and teaching you how to take a shower out of a bucket and rinsing you off and, making love to you 2 or 3 times a day. There's not a lot of huge, cynical pre-planning that goes into that. When you find yourself in that situation, you're like, oh shit, yeah, I like this, and so you do it. It's not because you're looking for somebody to victimize or somebody who won't question that you don't have a huge amount of money or whatever. You're in the situation. They obviously seem to want to be in it too. And, so you're like, well, it's not like you're trying to take advantage of somebody or whatever. It just happens. But he kept saying in that video, we'll never know what his motives were. Or, the guy went there with no money to try and have a life. And so he found one. People can argue about his decisions, whether or not some of the stuff he did was brilliant or whatever, especially when it comes to like getting into fights and things like that. But people live, they go somewhere, they find themselves in a situation and things start happening and they're like, shit, yeah, I like this. So what are they supposed to do? Say, oh, no, I'm sorry, beautiful young woman who wants to rape me 3 times a day. We can't do this because, I'm kind of old and I don't have a lot of money. Screw that. You're thinking, this is the life. And, maybe other people like him can sit there and say, high and holy and talk about how evil you are, what a villainous person you are, but that's not the way it works, People just want to live, and they fall into things, and there's not a lot of prior planning involved. Some people plan out everything they do, and other people, they end up in a situation and things are going great, and they love it, which is probably most people. You can't plan all this stuff.